It's like just like flipping real estate. The more you can invest in your business, the more letters that can go out, the more systems and supports you can hire. Your business has a way bigger cap than a single family rental would ever do.
Going to Alabama and buying low six-figure properties, that's feasible for just about anyone. You save up for a while, you can do this. And
I went from making a few $100 a month per property to a few thousand because guess what? Rents doubled, my mortgage payment went down by half, and now I'm sitting real pretty, guys. Like that's what happens when you have time in the market and you don't try to time the market.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Got a super exciting guest today, Brian Tran. I was just going over Brian's history and what he does and all the business he runs. He runs 8 different businesses. He has an $8 million real estate portfolio. He does tons of entrepreneurship things. He's a full-blown entrepreneur. But one of the coolest things we're also going to get into is one, why you should buy rental properties if you're a land investor, if you're doing other real estate. But one of the most impressive things that we talked about is he does all of this, guys, with a wife and 2 kids. So we're going to talk a little bit about balance and how to go about your guys' businesses. But super pumped to have you, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me, man. I'm ready to rock and roll, and I don't know, let's just have a good conversation.
That's what it's all about. And I like I said to you before this conversation, is like, we got a lot of people listening to this podcast with a lot of money. So I want to get into the depreciation side of real estate, the long-term investment side also, why people should be looking in that. But let's start with, you got a lot going on, man. Give us your little pitch.
Well, no real pitch. My family's they fled Vietnam after the war, and so I'm first generation American. God bless America. I love this place. Land of the opportunities, land of the free. I still think it is, no matter what people say. I'm living proof that you can come here with nothing and you can build, and the sky is the limit. And that's really what I did. Really, like I came here and I wasn't going to be average. Like I got to see what my parents went through, and I think that's one of the greatest blessings that I could have ever had. You know, they work day and night, 7 days a week, and they were still able to just get by and provide a great life for me. Was it like as good as what I have today? No, but they gave me the opportunity. And my thing has always been, I will never waste this opportunity that I was given. And that's why I wake up every morning still, I push the limit, and we're building and we're growing. And I don't own 8 businesses to brag. I own 8 businesses because every single one has a partner, has employees, and we're changing lives.
Wow. I love that. And I love the fact that your background is what driving you. It sounds like the Vietnamese first generation here. So tell me a little bit about, I know this is a little off topic, but I'm so curious to hear your parents' journey.
Let's see here. My dad came here. I honestly, like, he passed away when I was around 18, but like, so the early days, I just remember him working a lot. He did things from driving taxis. He at one point he worked at a body shop, and then he went back to taxis. So it's kind of blurred,
Yeah.
right? I just remember being at my mom's nail shop. She used to own a nail shop in the hood of Oakland, and we would be there. So we would go to school. She would pick us up, and then we would go to the nail shop. You couldn't go home. You had to go to the nail shop, and then we wouldn't get home until 7. If a customer came in at 6:45 and she wanted her nails done and toes done, we didn't get home till 8:30 or 9. And that's what I remember. And I remember those long nights, early mornings, and they made it work. And so that translated to me because it's so easy now to be like, oh man, today was such a hard day, right? How many times do we catch ourselves saying that? And then I just have to go back into my memory bank and be like, nah, today was a blessed day. It was easy. And I think that really attributed to my success because we all have bad days.
It's all
But
perspective.
yeah, my perspective changed, my mindset changed, and it's just that allows you to go into it with a better mentality. And next thing you know, things go up.
Yeah. And what was your first endeavor in entrepreneurship? Like, did you have a job first? Like, talk about your early entrepreneurship career.
I've never actually had a job. So, like, if you're wondering, like, if I went to go work at Jamba Juice or I volunteered like summer camps or anything like that, I never had that. Partly because I didn't know how to write a resume early on. I was like, oh, that fear. And so I guess my earliest endeavor, this was when Craigslist was getting big and people used to sell stuff on Craigslist. And I remember like one of my buddy, his brother was into cars, so there were car parts everywhere, like Mustang parts, everything. And I used to just be like, hey, how come? Like, what are you doing with that? And he'll be like, nothing. Like, go sell it. I'm like, what do you want? He goes, I want $50. Anything above that, you keep. And I'm like, oh, really? And so without even knowing about car parts, I just be like, okay, well, I want to make 25 bucks or 50 bucks. So I'm gonna put up for 100 bucks. And then I would just get inquiries and go sell it. And so I guess kind of like wholesaling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then eventually I picked up a skill. I learned how to cut hair. This was in sophomore year of high school. And so I started off charging $5 a haircut, and I used to cut. My biggest customer base was the baseball team. Every game they needed mohawks. So I was like, oh shit, no, it's not hard, meh, you know?
Hmm.
And that ended up, I started to develop that skill, and then I basically cut hair all the way up until after college. I had my customer base. I used to cut in my mom's garage, and I used to make anywhere from 2 to 500 bucks a week, depending on like, whoever would hit me up. But that
Yeah.
my customer base was enough to do that. And in high school, that was plenty. Even in college, that was actually plenty.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
enough. And
And
then
then after college, so what'd you do?
after college, I went right into becoming a realtor.
Okay.
Um, why? I graduated with a political science degree with an AA in communication. In short, it's a bullshit degree. You get that to become a lawyer. Well, I barely got through college. The only way I got through it was because I had very smart people around me to help me with my work. They called it cheating back then. I call it delegation today, right? I just learned a little bit differently. So I got through that, and I knew that, look, I'm not gonna get a job. I'm unhireable. I've never had a job up until this point. What am I gonna do with a political science? Become an admin and make 40 grand a year? I think even back then, maybe even 38,000, right? This was
Yeah.
back in 2012 or so. So the market was kind of recovering. I don't think people were paying much. My brother was a realtor, and he was doing all right. He was doing pretty good, I think. And I was like, oh, that seems better. So I got my license, and I went right, like my last quarter of college. I was taking the test for the license. So right when I graduated, I took the test and I got my license, and I went right into selling.
And that was in the Bay Area.
Bay Area, Oakland, California. I was 21 years old, selling. At the time, they weren't $1 million properties yet, but they were probably around 4 to 600,000, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
And I looked young, so I wore big suits, and I learned that I needed mentorship early on. And then back then there was a big guy named Mike Ferry. His son is now the big guy. His son is named Tom Ferry. If you're a realtor, everybody knows who he is. And he preached basically two things that got ingrained in my head: a schedule and cold calling. That's it, right? And picked up the phone, and that just translated to dialing for dollars. And I did okay. First year, made probably like $30,000, right? And here's the messed up part. My friends were smart. I always hung out with smart friends, right? They went out and they got hired by the big four,
Yeah.
PwC, Deloitte, one of those guys, and they were making, I think, 70,000. And this is where your mindset has to be strong, because now you're like, when you're young, you compare. I don't care what people say, and you have to really tame that mind, because you're like, damn, I worked and I'm making half, actually less than half of what they're making. But I knew that I had to learn before I can earn. And even to this day, I'm willing to learn before the money comes in, because now we're into different endeavors, and we can talk about the different endeavors. I understand delayed gratification, and I knew that with time and consistency, I'll become successful. Period. I just
Yeah.
didn't know how long it was going to take back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So then how are you still an active realtor?
No, I own the brokerage, and so we have over 70 agents, 5 offices. We'll end at around $350 million in sales this year, which sounds great, but as a broker, you earn a fraction of the commission. That's how we
Right.
make money. But what that does is it allows me to flip in multiple markets now, because I have boots on the ground. I have local expertise, right? We have a San Jose office, we have a San Francisco office, we have a Peninsula office, and then we have an East Bay, two in the East Bay. So at any given time, I can call the top producer in my office and say, hey, how's this market doing? Because it's been wonky. This last year has been the craziest like market ever, because comps don't mean crap.
Yeah.
And I can share a couple stories. We ended up making nothing on a few of our last projects because the comps pulled back so hard. But I had local expertise to say, hey, you need to drop the price today to this, get out. Otherwise, your holding cost is going to eat you up. So that's what we do now. But I got out of selling real estate because I had kids, believe it or not. Being a realtor, you're kind of at the mercy of your client's time, despite what everybody says, but you are. When do clients like to see houses? After work. When are my kids home from school? After work. And so I was like, yeah, we're not doing this. Like,
Got
I
it.
need to get out of this so I can level up. Nothing wrong with being a realtor, but it's like I just it doesn't fit my lifestyle. I have to do something else so that I can be more present with my children.
That's awesome. And at what point was your first? So you're running. When did you open that brokerage? I should say. When did you
So that
own
was
the
in
brokerage?
21. But I guess if you want to scale back and go through some timelines for the listeners, 2013 I sold real estate. 14 I opened up my first coffee shop that failed, and that took me out of the game for a little bit in terms of selling real estate. I ended up selling the business, but it taught me a lot. It taught me how to hire people, fire people, run Airbnbs because it was a kind of like a bed and breakfast in San Francisco. So I learned a lot. The only problem was it taught me that I had the wrong partners. They weren't doing any of the work. I did everything, and then all the profits were split evenly. That's not cool. I didn't have a salary, and then 2015 got back into selling real estate, but this time in San Francisco. I moved to San Francisco before it was Oakland, so I moved across the bridge, higher price point, learned how to deal with very very rich people,
Yeah,
speak the way
sure.
they speak, walk the way they walk. And then 2016, I said, you know what? I had a chip on my shoulder. I said, the first coffee shop failed, but I'm going to do it again. But this time I'm going to do it right. Found the right partner. And then we opened up Rise and Grind Coffee House in San Francisco. That location's still around to this day. And then I was, in this whole time, balancing that. And then I was still selling real estate. I used to keep a suit in the car because I would go work the register, check on the shop, put on a suit when there was a showing, and or Saturday, Sundays, I would put on the suit and I'd go do an open house, right? 2017, we opened up the VA Hub, which is our virtual assistant company. And all this while I'm still selling real estate, 12, 14-hour days. I loved it. And the money started to roll in. Um, After the VA Hub, 2017, 2019, I opened up the second location. 21, I opened up the third coffee shop location and a boba shop location, which I just sold for a profit, so that's good. And then all the while, just I think 21 was actually the year when I got out of real estate. I said I'm gonna scale back, and that's when we launched 50 Hills Real Estate as well. So a
And
lot
that's when
going
you
on.
got into the investing side.
And then I got into the investing side actually in 2017.
Okay,
Sorry,
so you got into actual like
2017.
buying.
And the story was this: I represented an investor back in like late, middle to 2016, and he bought it, he flipped it, and I remember seeing my commission was $25,000. His proceeds at the bottom was $250,000, and that's when I was like, I got to be on that side, right?
Got it.
And
Yeah,
then
saw it firsthand.
2017, we bought our first flip. Me and my
Okay.
partner Alex, who we own 50 Hills with, we bought our first flip, and it took everything. Like basically, I needed, I put in the down payment. We had hard money, and then him and I basically every commission we had to put towards the property. So imagine in flipping, you have to front load everything. You put all this money in, and then you don't see that money until it's sold. And hopefully, if you sold it right, you'll get that back plus the profit, right? But this was when the San Francisco market was booming. We bought it expecting to make $250,000 total. Well, guess what? The market kept going up and up, and by the time we sold it, we made a little over $575,000 in profit. So
Wow.
when we split it, we each walked away with like 250 something thousand dollars, right? And I looked at him and I said, "Holy shit! Like we made our whole year's commission almost on one deal." Because at the time we were selling around 30. It was him and I. We did about a little shy of $40 million in sales, so about $1 million in GCI. But what happens is you have a broker fee, so you walk away with whatever
Right.
your split is with the brokerage.
Got
Yeah,
it.
a whole
And
lot, man. But
it's
life has
crazy
been
because
good.
uh, I don't hear a lot of investors who come from running coffee shops and you said Baba,
Boba.
Boba,
Yeah,
Boba
the
shop.
little black
Like
balls in the tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't hear the retail. I don't know. I don't. A lot of people I talk to don't come from that retail type of background. Do you think like what inspired you to open that coffee shop up? Was it seeing your parent? You said your mom owned a nail salon, things like that. You grew up in that atmosphere, like, or
What that
what was
was
it?
at the time, around 2015, 2016, I think I was starting to make, like, I broke into the six figures in commissions. And I just remember, like, we talk about anxiety as entrepreneurs. I had the worst anxiety, like, shit, I gotta wake up tomorrow. I gotta go hunt for the next deal,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Because, in real estate, especially as a realtor, it's usually a 90-day cycle before you get paid. The cash conversion cycle is 90 days. So I meet a client, and if assuming everything goes well, I don't usually get paid until the 90th day, because you have to kind of buyer consultation or seller consultation. You got to prep the home, then you got to list the home, then you have escrow. So it takes a long time to get paid. So you always have to keep the pipeline filled. And I remember just thinking, and I was telling my girlfriend, who's my wife at the time, I said, I just want to make 5 grand a month to cover our bills, and I wanted like a faster cash cycle. And I say, okay, well, I did coffee before. That was kind of nice. You sell a coffee for $5, I make $5 gross, right? And I was like, that. So we got to go back to that. I need that to feel a little bit more secure. By
Yeah.
that time, I'd actually already had a rental, but again, playing the game, right? We
No
just want to
diversity.
keep
Yeah.
leveling up. And I said, okay, I don't have enough money or down payment to buy another house yet, but businesses are cheaper to operate. Um, give you an example, the boba shop only cost $38,000 to start up, believe it or not. And once you know what to look for, that coffee shop racked in $180,000 in profit in year one,
Wow.
right? So like no real estate's gonna make 180 grand off of a $34,000 purchase. Now you can burr, you can do all this other strategy, but it's not as common.
Right.
With business, it's a lot more common. So that's why I still got into the coffee business. And then later on,
Got
I
it.
learned a lesson from this, is that I'm in different businesses now, not because it's what I wanted to get into, but because the person that I was investing in had a passion for it. So I have a partner in the coffee shop. He's still my partner to this day. We still own the businesses, but they have a passion for it. And when they have a passion for it, that's what I invest in.
Real quick, guys, before we get back to the episode, if you're looking to get into land flipping, get your first land deal. We have helped so many people with our one-on-one coaching. If you guys want to schedule a call, learn more, hit the link below, landinvestingonline.com/consultations, schedule a call, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, let's get into some of the real estate side. I know
Yeah.
we touched on it a little bit. So 2017 was your first flip, correct? You said?
Yeah.
Okay, and now you're holding, you said $8 million of property
Yeah.
separately from that. Are you still flipping houses?
Still flip houses.
What's the volume on the house? Like, how many houses you flipping a year? Is that
We'll do about 11. We average about 11 to 12 a year. Average purchase price around a million to $1.3 million, and then
damn?
average renovation costs around 200. So we don't do volume. I'm in California. I'm in San Francisco. So we're not doing 80 flips a year. That
Right.
actually scares me. I don't want to do 80 flips a year.
But
And
you're
I'll
high
tell you
ticket
why.
price.
But we're high ticket price.
So there's
So
volume in
our
two ways.
average,
There's the financial, the money side, and then there's the actual volume, and you're doing it. You go in high dollar.
yeah. Well, I'm also, because I'm here,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I flip right here in my backyard. I think, but the reason why I don't like doing 70 flips a year is because their average is probably taking home $50,000, maybe $70,000 a flip. Well, I don't care if you're in California or you're in Florida or Texas. It takes the same amount of time to flip a house, right? And so my thing is time. So I want to make more money per project for my time, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah, we talked on your podcast a little how you were talking about how we flipped 1,000 pieces of property, and that's how it started out, was just the low buy for 20, sell for 40, and now if you look at the properties we're doing, they're all multi six-figure deals that we're going after. Same exact concept that you're touching there. So
The difference with land, though, is you're not actually doing any renovation, or most of the
right,
time you're not. So that's
correct.
better. Whereas with us, kitchen, bathroom, you got to pick the tiles, you got to pick the cabinets. It's kind of a mess.
And when you said that 90-day cycle, that hit the spot for me too, because it's like as soon as we talk to a lead, we have a 90 to 100-day, 20-day cycle also. It's like your money's so delayed in this business, transactional real estate.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into your real estate portfolio, because like I said, a lot of people on here, they want to know where they should put their money. They want to know their next investment. They're buying and flipping land, or they're getting into land investing. They want to hear some pros and cons of rental properties. You own multifamilies, you own single family homes, you own a lot of different rental properties.
Yeah.
Let's touch on like why did you get into that? And then let's just start talking rentals a little bit.
The idea came about because, like every immigrant family that comes to America, you have to own properties. So that's where the idea was planted in my head. What it later became was that now I have to buy it. It's not an option because I need to save on taxes, right? And your listeners here, you guys are flipping land, you're making all this money. You're either going to pay it to Uncle Sam, or you can buy land, do a cost segregation study, get the bonus depreciation, and this year we're back to 100%. So you're going to save a pretty penny, guys. So you have to buy something. And here's the thing. I looked at it this way. I was a dummy early in my life, and I paid, I'm in California, so we're taxed like at 50%, 34% to federal, 13.3% to the state. Year after year, I was writing them a check for six figures, multiple six figures. I should have bought properties earlier, because if I did, I would have still been broke, because obviously the cash would have been gone, but at least the cash would have bent back into an asset that I own. And that asset would do a couple of things. Number one, you've already heard about it. It's the depreciation. If you bought it in a good cash flowing area, you'll cash flow. Then you have appreciation, and then you have capital, principal pay down, right? Those are the four things that you need to look for. Yeah, I mean, if I had done that, I'd put my portfolio probably worth like 12 million, right? Because I'm in California. A lot of it wasn't that I paid $8 million for these properties. I bought them for 300, I bought them for 400, I bought them for 800, and guess what happened? California just doubled in the last like 5 years alone, right? And that's where a lot of my wealth came from. And then you do cash out refinances, and then you can blow that money because that's tax free. You don't get taxed on debt.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, you talked about depreciation, you talked about cash flow, you talked about appreciation, you talked about the loan pay down. For depreciation, let's talk some numbers here. Like, let's make it make sense for the audience if they've never heard of what bonus cost segregation, bonus depreciation is.
Yeah. Oh boy. I always screw this up because you really got to talk to a tax person. I'm good at doing math when it comes to flipping, but let's just see, simple math. I was buying, even 2 years ago when I started buying, bonus depreciation was at 80%. I was buying properties in Alabama for $100,000 to $120,000. I put $30,000 down to buy them. Every single property saved me at that time 2 years ago. It saved me about $13,000 to $15,000 off of my taxes. So that was $13,000 to $15,000 I didn't have to write to the IRS. Okay,
Exactly.
I don't know how to reverse the math. I just
Yeah,
don't want
no,
to
that
wrong
makes sense.
information. Yeah.
So
But
essentially,
think about that,
if you,
like,
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, if you qualify, so to qualify for bonus depreciation, you have to be, and talk to your guys as accountants,
Yes. A real estate
because
professional.
it's we're not accountants here. But what I do know, because I do the same thing, is it will eliminate a lot, if not all, of your taxes if you do it right. So
Yep.
you qualify it because you're a full-time real estate professional. So if you're doing this full-time, you can qualify for it. And then what happens is the Trump admin just put it back, so it's 100%. You can get 100% of the whole cycle of a house depreciation in 1 year. So if you buy $1 million warehouse, industrial warehouse that depreciation is very high in warehouses, you might get $400,000 of literally tax write-off. So it comes off of. So if you made $300,000 and you get $300,000 of depreciation, you owe $0 of federal tax. Essentially, is what that does. So. We can spend 20 minutes explaining this. We're not going to go too deep into it, but if you guys are making money in real estate and you guys are doing this full time, you want to take advantage of depreciation. You can not write checks to the government ever again because of it. And like I said, it's something I'm trying to take more advantage of, and I have historically as well. So
Yeah.
that was number one. Brian, anything to add to that, or we go to the cash flow number two?
I think just to say, what, like land, you can't really depreciate land too much, guys. So when it comes to why you're able to take this much depreciation is because, let's say you buy that $1 million property and it's a house, right? The land is worth, let's call it $100,000. The structure is worth 900, and that's what you're going to be able to do the cost segregation study on. So if you guys are flipping land and you're like, well, why don't I just keep the land? I'm not sure how much you'll save on taxes because land doesn't have like a structure on it, so you're not going to have anything to really write off because
Exactly.
your
There is
roof,
no depreciation.
yeah, your roof has an expiration, the walls, the driveway, all that stuff, right? They take that into account that hey, that's all depreciating. And I'm gonna add one more thing.
Yep.
Early on in my career, I did what most people do, and they had write-offs, right? Meals and entertainment, all that stuff. So even though I made a lot of money on my tax returns, I basically made nothing because I wrote off so much stuff. And why does that matter? Well, when it comes to getting loans now to go buy your dream house or more apartment buildings or even like a duplex or whatever, if you keep writing off stuff, you don't have income to qualify. But if you do depreciation, lenders can add that money back in and it will count because it's a paper loss. It's not like you really lost or that 300 or
Right.
$400,000.
Right.
So that's where it gets real
Yeah,
fun.
you're
And
not
now when you
actually
guys get
losing
around,
money. It's
yeah,
just it's kind of weird for someone who's never heard of it to understand that. But I just did one. I'm doing one this month on a it's a $500,000 single family home in Cincinnati, and the cool thing about this, guys, is it doesn't matter how much money you put into the property. Like Brian said, like you could put as long as you have the equity, you can take the depreciation. So you could technically put $0 down and still get this tax write off if you have the equity in it. So for this property, though, for this example, it's $500,000. Let's say the land's 100,000 is $400,000 of the structure. I get a write off 130. I'm looking at it right now, $132,000 and $771 off of my taxes this year. So it's going to bring my tax down 100, which is going to save whatever tax bracket you're getting paid taxed at 50%. It would literally save you, $70,000 right there.
yeah.
So that's just an example of it. So definitely look into that, guys. Next, for the apartments, so we got the depreciation is the number one thing, if biggest write-offs you can get in anything in the world right now, right? Number two is the cash flow that you can get from these apartments. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So depending on what market you buy, you either buy in a market that has high cash flow, low appreciation. Then you have like a hybrid where it's pretty decent cash flow and pretty decent appreciation. A market like that would be like Ohio, actually, Cleveland, Ohio, in a neighborhood like Lakewood. I was looking over there. You can pick up a duplex now for around 300,000 and no cash flow, maybe a few $100, not a lot, but it's been appreciating like crazy because when I just started looking about a year and a half ago, you could pick up those duplexes for 200,000. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I didn't. I ended up not buying it because I kept getting outbidded. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to Montgomery, Alabama, where it's a little bit easier. So there you go. You have that market, and then you have like a market like where I'm at, California, where you probably have zero cash flow right now with the rates the way they are. You're going to have negative cash flow, which I don't recommend. But you have crazy appreciations, like I'm talking about life-changing money appreciation.
Wow.
So that's what you look for. I was lucky because I bought at a time in California where you can still cash flow semi decent, right? Areas like Oakland, Hayward, San Leandro, like markets that are like a stone's throw away from the big cities, where you can pick them up fairly cheap. At the time I picked up my properties 380, 400,000, 500,000, some at 700, right? And they were making 300 to $1,000 in cash flow. Some of them actually made more because I ended up putting in basically like house hacking at an early age, like when before house hacking was popular. But that's what you were making. But then this is what happened: the market value shoots up, rents shoot up, and then on top of it, we were in a perfect storm, right? Rents were high, values were high, rates dropped. And then I refinanced a boatload of my properties at 2.7, 2.8, some at three and a quarter. And then
Wow.
now I went from making a few $100 a month per property to a few thousand because guess what? Rents doubled, rates dropped, my mortgage payment went down by half, and now I'm sitting real pretty, guys. Like that's what happens when you have time in the market and you don't try to time the market.
So just buying consistently over time.
Yeah.
So you still buying in today's market to
I
hold?
still do, yeah.
Are you
Mostly
buying
now,
in
mostly out of state.
out of state? Why is
Yeah.
that?
It's just, you know, to save up enough down payment to buy something in California might take me a year. Whereas in Alabama, I can save up every month and I can just keep picking up doors.
And what's your average price at door? In Alabama, are you flipping or are you
No,
holding?
no, I'm holding.
Oh, you're
I
holding
flip
only.
local, yeah.
You
So
only flip
we
local.
make money off our flips, so therefore I got to do something with that money. And so every time like a project's done, I usually go and take that money and I'll go buy some properties to
Got
offset
it.
those
Okay.
taxes.
And then you're offsetting the taxes in Mobile County, Alabama. Okay. And
Is it mobile count? Yeah,
mobile.
well, we're in
Oh, you
Montgomery.
said Montgomery. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Montgomery.
yeah, yeah.
That's
I
right.
don't know the county. I've never been.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I buy it remote.
And so and your average, so just to put it in perspective, because a lot of people, when they hear you talk about $1.2 million places you're flipping in San Fran, that's like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's a lot. But then you talk about going to Alabama and buying low six-figure properties. That's feasible for just about anyone. You save up for a while, you can do this. And that's what I want people to take after this. Like, how much money would someone need to go buy a rental investment down in Alabama or a market such as that?
I mean, sometimes guys, you can just buy in your backyard. I don't know where you're listening from, but if your backyard is $120,000, you could probably get in with 3.5% down and say it's your first, your
That's what I did. Yeah.
FHA. I can't do that because I live in California, so I can't qualify for an FHA loan out there or a regular conforming loan. I have to actually buy it under as an investment property, so it requires me to put 25 to 30% down. But like, but even if you did it my way, you need about $35,000 to buy a $110 to $120,000 property. And what you're buying, okay, if you're starting out, like this is where I would go. I would buy a single family. I wouldn't buy a duplex. Why? Single family homes appreciate more than duplexes. But I would look for properties 1980s or newer because now you're going to have newer systems, newer plumbing, right? Different quality construction. You won't have plaster and lead based paint to worry about. I would look for now in Montgomery, I try to buy things on slab foundation, not on piers and all that crap that they have. But if you buy something 1980s and newer, it's probably going to be on slab. I try to buy brick facade because brick, you don't have to worry about termites as much. I make sure the roof is good. I make sure the systems are newer. Uh, you can ask ChatGPT. I don't want to bore you guys like what year it should be, like in terms of like how old the system should be. And then I look for 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. I don't buy ones and I don't buy twos. Why? 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms attract families. Families stay a lot longer than you or a single person that doesn't they want to change your lifestyle a little bit because the main thing that's going to kill you will be your vacancies and your turnovers, right? Every month that is empty is a month you have to pay in mortgage. So 3 and 4 bedrooms, and then on top of it, you want to buy in areas. I don't like the reason why it's 100 to 130. They're pretty decent neighborhoods. You can buy properties in Alabama for 60, 50, 40. It's gonna be bad and it's gonna be rough, and your property managers probably won't even go out there, right? So you're asking for headaches. And then on top of it, I would make a little bonus tip. I would look for what zip code Section 8 pays the most. Because Section 8, like most of my properties out in Alabama right now are all Section 8. They pay the most and they're actually really good tenants. And a lot of it's not 100% guaranteed by the government, but they pay a good chunk of it. So I always guarantee like at least to cover the mortgage, even if the tenants don't pay their portion,
Got
right?
it. So you're doing Section 8 and you're getting a nice hefty check on time every month from the government then.
Yeah.
Don't need to
And
worry about
like
collecting.
a 3 bedroom is getting like 1,300, 1,350, depending on the zip code you're buying in. And then a 4 bedroom goes like 1,450 to 1,500. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I
So
got one
you
up
make
in
four to 500 bucks a property.
I have one in Cincinnati that I still hold. I have a few Section 8s up there. But I bought it for $82,500 back in like 2018 maybe.
Not even that
And
long ago.
yeah, and it has one it is a duplex. So that goes against your rule. But
No, it's not. I mean, like, there's exceptions to certain things, but yeah,
yeah, and one unit is so it won't appreciate as much like you're saying, but one unit the reason I liked it so much is because one unit's a 2 bed, but the other unit's a 4 bed. So I bought a duplex for 82,000 with 6 beds, and I get like the government sends me a check of like $2,100 or something every month, or $2,300 or something up in Cincinnati, and you do the math on $82,000 mortgage. My mortgage is 200, and I got it at a 2.75% loan, I think, back in the day. So my mortgage is like single like low $100 like 300 $400 or something with everything taxes included, and obviously there's expenses and stuff, but for someone just getting started, that's very feasible. I did that when I was working my 9 to 5 job and I didn't have money. I was making like 60 grand a year. So it's feasible to anyone listening here, I think, if you just
What's
save up.
that property worth today, you think?
I haven't looked at it in a while, probably 200,
Well, in
250.
7 years, you doubled your money, and on
Yeah.
top of it, you've been clearing almost like $15,000 to $16,000 a year,
Yeah, yeah. And
right?
Section
Think
8 in
about it.
Cincinnati is a little bit rougher though. So you
Yeah.
do get high turnover a lot of times.
Mm.
And you see like there's bullet holes in my houses. There's the I bought a property a few years ago in Section 8 in Cincinnati in an area called Price Hill. And I went there on closing day to check it out, and there was flowers. Someone just got shot there.
Oh,
It
geez,
is
you should get
a
rid of
little
those
bit.
properties.
Yeah, it's a little bit rougher of an area, but I use property managers for everything, so I'm not over there knocking for rent or anything either. And they like you said, they cash flow Section 8 cash flows really really well.
Nice.
All right, so what else we got? We got the pay down. So over time, you're talking about how the loan pay down. That's the last thing we'll touch on rentals, and then we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about it. If you have a 15-year or 30-year loan, in 15 years, that thing's gonna get paid off. Now, I don't suggest that. I'm a big believer that you should leverage the properties. So I would definitely either trade them out and buy something bigger, or get another loan on it when the rates kind of get a little bit more favorable. Pull that money out and just keep going.
So would you suggest this to a land investor who's doing this? They're doing it full time. Like, where would you own a lot of different businesses, obviously, and have a lot of experience. Where would you put your energy
I like businesses. Business first, and then as a byproduct, you're gonna buy real estate.
to get your taxes down for the most part?
That's right.
Okay,
Like,
I like
but
that.
I think that's advice for like what your people are doing, flipping land. Like, we know it's like just like flipping real estate. The more letters, the more you can invest in your business, the more letters that can go out, the more systems and supports you can hire. Your business has a way bigger cap than a single family rental would ever do, right? So invest there first, make the million, 2 million, $3 million a year, and then now you're forced to go buy the real estate that will make your consistent cash flow go up and up and up over time. But
I like that. So until you have
this,
the problem, don't look for the problem. Like
yeah,
just keep putting the fuel on the fire that you know is working, which is your
yep,
land investing career. You have something, guys. If you're just getting started and you're making a couple hundred grand, pour the gas on the fire. It's working. Double down. You know what I mean? Go from 200 to 500 to a million. Get to that next level because that's working. All of a sudden, you go to a new business or a new model like rentals and all. It takes your attention off of it. You're putting your money in something new that you're not going to get as high of an ROI. But eventually, you'll get to the place where you're forced and you want to look for ways to diversify and make some money and get the depreciation, the tax write-offs, essentially, is what he's saying.
I have a great book that people should read. It's called Profit First. I forgot the author, but I love that book because before the year even starts, you should definitely already have a percentage of your income allocated, right? Um, and you can set whatever the percentage is, but
Mm,
I always have 10% going to investments so that I'm taking some chips off the table in business because business is risky. I get it, right? I'm not a believer in going all in all the time in your business,
right.
right? Some years I pull back. I said, hey, you know what? Things are a little choppy. We're going to take some money off the flipping table a little bit because things aren't selling like they used to.
Right.
So let's take this money and let's buy something a little bit more secure, right? But it's already all set. So the book teaches you to just allocate certain funds to the five accounts. Yeah.
Love that. Got it. All right. Well, let's get into your family, man. You're doing this all with two kids, you said?
Yeah,
What
7 and 4.5. They're both
7
in
and a four and a
school.
half?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah, they're
married.
expensive. They're expensive, man. I
So
people I would have a lot more money if I didn't have kids. Let's put it that way.
and how do you do all that? So like what's my brother Ron and Mike both have families too. I don't have a family yet.
Yeah.
But how do you balance all of that in your life with all these businesses and things going on?
I think the first thing to understand is that it's not like, don't think balance as, okay, today I'm going to work 8 hours and then I'm going to give my family 8 hours, right? I don't look at it that way. And through communication, I think that's a big thing. You have to communicate with your partners and your kids. Don't care how young they are. I speak to them like adults, right? Like, hey, today, kids, like Monday, Tuesday are my longest days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are long. And so on these days, I'm going to be working a little bit longer. I have meetings. My wife sees my calendar. She's like, okay, I get it. But come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's way more free time for you. Like we'll make up for what we lost on Monday. So if you look at like my seven, I look at like 7 cups, right? One, two, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, and I'm pouring into like certain businesses. It might look like I'm if somebody were to zoom in on a Monday schedule, they'll say, Brian, you're not balanced. Like you spent no time with your kids. But I'm like, wait, zoom out. And then you see the full picture. So that's the key. I think that's the first thing is like you have to understand that some days are going to be longer, some days are going to be shorter. And then the next thing would be is that you have to really still pour the same kind of energy that you do in your business as you do with your kids. So I will slam a monster or a coffee at 4 o'clock, knowing that I'm gonna come home and I need to be like, because I'm at work like, yeah, let's go, team. And then I come home like, you know.
Yeah.
So I do come home and I try to give them the same amount of energy. Like if that's their time, I try to come home with that same intensity, right?
I love that.
Because what's the point of pouring into your business if you're not going to pour into your family? And this is
Yeah.
what's going to happen a lot. And this is what I don't want. And this is why I do what I do. What's the point of building a big business only to get a divorce and lose half of it? Right? Like, makes no sense. You're building this for your family, or at least that's what you're saying, only to lose it and give it half to an angry partner.
It's a good way
And
to
so
look
what
at it.
good does that do for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that intensity too of you trying to match the intensity. You're going home with a mindset. You know what I mean? Like you're not just going home and feeling like you're aware enough of what you need to do to be there and show up for your kids. And I don't know if you know Jesse Itzler, but he always says this. He's an entrepreneur. He was the founder of Marquise Jets. He sold it to Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Part owner of the Hawks. But he has a saying where for his kids, he's never too tired. So anytime his kids ask him to do something, or obviously there's work times and not, but if he's home and he's already there and he's not doesn't have another obligation, his thing is like I'm never too tired to do something that my kid. If they want to go out and play basketball and I'm sitting around and I don't have anything, I'm gonna do it no matter how I feel at the time. And it just reminded me of what you said. It's like a hashtag never too tired moment.
Man, I'm not that good. Sometimes I am tired. I'm like, hey, can we do something else, kids? Not basketball, not something like so physically intensive.
Absolutely.
But
That's awesome stuff. What else haven't we touched on so far in your story, your journey, your entrepreneurship? What else do we got to touch on?
I think that's, I mean, honestly, I have the big thing is like what I learned, guys, is that you don't have to do everything and be the CEO and leader of everything, right? The prime example is I own a company called thevahub.com. It's a virtual assistant company. We are U.S. owned, but based in actually Philippines, Argentina, Chile, and Mexico. But the bulk of our labor force is in the Philippines. But that company really taught me that, holy smokes, I don't need to be the CEO. I don't need to be the one leading the charge, right? It's about finding great, talented people, giving them the vision, and trusting them and not micromanaging them to go out and achieve the vision. And that company is now approaching almost it'll be 9 years soon in February.
Wow.
But yeah, and it's thriving, and it's one of my biggest companies that I don't do anything in, right? Like I probably spend an hour a week on that business, hopping on phone calls and just checking in to make sure things are going the way I want it to go. But that's the power of leverage, delegation, and letting go.
I love
So
that.
build your
Let's
team,
double
guys.
down. Yeah. Let's double down on this VA hub because we're land investors, we're real estate investors. People are always looking for VAs, right? So you actually own a VA company that sources VAs for the companies, correct? That's what you're saying?
Correct.
And let's dive into that business a little bit. Let's get nitty gritty with what that
Yeah,
does and how it
so we're
works.
not a small shop. We service over 1,000 clients, and let me see here. My staff alone is 85 people that work for the VA Hub. And what does that look like? We have an HR department, we have a client service department, we have a training department, we have sales and marketing, and then we have our C-suite, right? So it's not a small company. So when you're thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna hire this Filipino VA from Fiverr or something like that, that's one person. What you're hiring really with us is the training, the up training after that, right? We don't just hand them off to you and say, okay, goodbye, like you can take care of them. But when new technology comes out, like AI and ChatGPT just connected with Canva and Zillow.com, for example, we go back in and we pull them a little bit and say, hey, look, this is new. Learn the training. We created the module, right? So that you're always getting somebody that's up with the trend. But let's take it back even further. Our company screens over 10,000 VAs a month. You want to know how many actually gets endorsed to clients? It's like 2%.
Wow.
You want to know why? We put them through 3 weeks of training before they even get endorsed. What happens? And it's unpaid. If you can't pass our tests, our trainings, our modules, grammar, and stuff like that, like you don't get to get endorsed, because when people hire from us, you're getting the gold standard, right? And there's no accountability when you hire from off of Fiverr, because those guys, they don't do the work. What happens? Nothing. You hire from us, if they don't do the work, you complain, we can withhold their pay, figure out what's wrong, right? Fix that. There's accountability there. So there's a lot to it. I say give it a try. If you want to go check out the website, thevahub.com. Like, been in business for almost 9 years. You don't last that long unless you're doing good business.
No, that's true. And I have a lot of Filipinos that work for us also, and it sounds like that's majority of your base, but then you have some South Americans and whatnot. So you have them trained and you hand them completely off to them,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
And then you charge per handoff essentially?
No, we charge per hour.
Oh, you charge per hour.
So you pay us, which is nice because now it becomes my account. Whenever I send money randomly or I do a Zelle or however you pay your VA, sometimes they're like, "What is this?" With us, we make it so that you pay us, so that now you can use your credit card, but it's easier to track your finances and deduct that off your taxes.
Got it. Love
Yeah.
that.
And
Oh,
we're a
big
U.S. based company, so when something happens, baby, we're U.S. If something happens and you hired a Filipino overseas, man, it's on
true.
you. You know.
And
So
what got you into that business?
So I was a real estate agent, right? And so we hired a VA, and they were shit, obviously, like terrible. And I said, this isn't right. Like this person doesn't speak English. There's always a typhoon happening, and they never have like backup internet. So one of our requirements is that they have to have 2 sources of internet and a backup generator, and obviously we run their computer to make sure that it's actually fast enough to do work, right? So those are like some of the other little minuscule details that we do to make sure that we endorse good clients. But going back to that, they were terrible. And I was like, man, like this isn't that hard, right? And so my brother and I, we're just like you and your brothers. Like this, we can make this better. And that's exactly what we did. We found our COO at the time. She's now the president of the company.
Wow.
But we brought her on, built up we knew we needed to do this right, like have the departments, and we built up the teams. And then in the beginning, I was selling. Like it's easy because I was using the product, and I was in the real estate community. I'm like, you need a VA, give it a try. And then we built, it started to generate enough money, and we reinvested everything in. And then now today the company is like as big as it is.
I love that. So check it out, guys. thevahub.com. Get your guys' VAs there. Or at least try it out one time, see how it is. I'm sure you guys will love it. But
Yeah.
any last remarks? Where can people find you, and anything else you got to say or leave behind?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. It's Mr. Brian Tran, MrBrianTran. I'm pretty active on Instagram, but I post everywhere. Guys, my last message to you, just make sure that you buy real estate, because, with the laws changing and everything changing with business, you never know when your income source is going to change, right? But with real estate and rentals or commercial property, that is here to stay. Take some money off the table, buy those properties, build the foundation so that you can have the freedom and flexibility to be with your kids and do what you want when you want. You can do it with business too, but I think eventually when you scale enough, it is easier to do with rental properties, to walk away.
I love that. Well, what a good episode, man. I appreciate you coming on, Brian. This was really good. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are listening on Spotify, make sure to give us a like and share this with someone who can use it. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe. But thanks for coming, Brian.
Appreciate you.